You lost, obviously, Jared, Brainfist, both, I guess, potential first-round picks, along with Fabian Lovett. You lost some real talent and some real experience. But with the people you brought in, do you feel like it could be as good a defensive line? I know you don't want to put limitations on things, but do you feel really good about the depth and overall talent on the defensive line?
Yeah, we brought in 4 defensive linemen. We've got 4 high school kids that'll be here later. And plus, you can't lose sight of the development, and so what does that mean? The Danny Lyons, the Byron Turners, the guys that have played a little bit, like they're still the KJ Sampsons. You add that because it's when you bring in a guy for 1 or 2 years and he's a transfer, that's one thing. But like what happened with Pat Payton was critical to our success over the last couple of years too, which was he didn't play at all, played a little bit, became a ACC Rookie of the Year, became an all-conference player. Like, so that, when we're putting the team together, when you're bringing guys from different places, high school, red shirts, all that stuff, and you're growing them all, I think the individual development of each guy within the team atmosphere is critical. And for that reason, yeah, I think I'm not going to put any ceilings where I think the front can get done this year. I like the pieces we added, and now we just got to go get better together.
Health-wise, could it even have more depth if they stay
healthy?
I
think we could be deeper.
Depth?
I think defensive tackle is going to be an important thing. We'll see where Tamawa ends up playing. He's going to play all along the front here in the spring, and we'll see what that ends up looking like. But I definitely think we've got a chance because even I thought Jaden Jones had a really good winter. He's a name that you probably don't think of right off the bat, but again, he was a 1-year junior college player that got hurt. So, last year he was just coming off. So, there's a lot of those type of pieces that are still in our program that I think are undefined of what it can be. But I have a lot of optimism about what somebody like that can do for us next year.
You referenced Tommy Wan, the versatility. Is that something when you guys went to the portal looking for pieces, you did look for versatility, guys that could play in an array of spots?
A little bit. I don't always say, hey, we want to make sure we get a multi-tooled player. I think that happens in the secondary a little bit more than up front. Because up front, you can look at, there weren't many guys, I think probably Kier Thomas, Dennis Briggs, and a little bit of Braden, out of my 4 or 5 years here. So it doesn't happen a lot. But I think Tamawa fits into that realm. He's about 270 pounds. We think he runs well enough to play on the edge, but I think he's got enough stuff to play in the A and B gaps too.
Pat's added 15 pounds. How beneficial is it to him to get bigger, and why did you guys want him to get bigger?
Well, I think that's just a natural progression. He's still a young man. He's still growing, and he walks down the hall and you notice the size and you notice his frame getting bigger. And I think that's a credit to our nutrition staff. That's a credit to Josh Storms and our strength staff. It's a credit to Pat, and I just think it's part of the progression. Look what Josh Farmer's done with his body. He's bigger than he was last year. And he's moving just as well. So I just think it's part of the development for him.
Linebacker DJ Lundy obviously made the decision after going in the portal to return. What has he been like since that return, and what has he told you guys he wants to improve upon as he enters his final year?
DJ has had his best offseason, but he should. He's going into his later years of his career. I think DJ's taken a lot of steps from a leadership standpoint. I think Tatum and D'Lo really helped that with him, because he was really part of that group last year with those two. They were all played. It didn't matter which 2 of those 3 were in the game. They're all playing. But I think when they left, I think DJ noticed, okay, there's a void here, and not only do I need to make sure I feel part of that leadership void, but he wants to do it. So, questions like he'll reach out and say, Coach, how can I do a better job of this or that? And not even football technique, just maybe of how setting up workouts, or how he should watch a tape with the guys, or how his communication should be, things he should say, things he shouldn't say. So there's a long list of things that he's trying to work on right now.
After him, the linebacker group's really young, a lot of inexperience. Sean has some experience, Omar has some experience. Mm-hmm. How important is the spring for that group to have guys just emerge, push each other, and truly see how the competition kind of figures itself out?
The good part about it is, Blake played a ton of special teams. Juice played a good amount of special teams. Murph played a bunch of special teams, even though it wasn't here. So they've all played football. And I truly believe that Omar Graham, what he did last year for us, he didn't practice in the fall because of the ankle, and he basically battled through it the entire season. And so, last fall camp, I remember what it looked like, and I know exactly what Omar is capable of. And I think there's a lot of good football left in him.
The secondary too. It's got to be fun for you to have so many, good players battling for not a lot of spots. I mean, just the competition level of that is where good programs become great, right? Like having competition like that.
Yeah, I mean, your best at places like Florida State. What we're building is the competition should be daily. It shouldn't be every Saturday in the fall. And I think you only create that by having capable players throughout your program at all positions. And I think a DB is critical because it's hard to hide a DB that can't play because the ball's coming at him. So you better make sure they all check the boxes. And, obviously you can just look at it. We've recruited a lot of good length, guys that can run, guys that can play the ball, guys that can tackle. And, we're seeing that now, the depth showing up, especially, at safety. Conrad, Ashland, KJ Kirkland, like all those names are like, true freshmen. Some of them help, some didn't. Now they're going into their second year. And now it's like, okay, now we have some depth at that position again, we've got a lot of good players in the secondary, but they got to go play. This is what the spring is going to be for.
And obviously, Azareye'h and Fintrell have played a lot of football for you last year. They're penciled in. I know it's penciled in as competition, but you figure they're going to be playing a lot if they're not starting.
They should be.
Who else at corner can be into that rotation? Would you like to have 4 or 5 guys that can rotate?
Last year we played 3.
Yeah.
And most of the time you're going to at least play 3. But, like, look at what we did last year. We took Azareye'h, who was our third corner, and we started him at dime so that we could create that role on third down. Now, some games he played more than Fintrell because he was the hot hand, the matchup was good, he played more. I think you're always trying to find that next piece, so, I mean, obviously all the freshman corners that we signed this year are going to be at corner. But from last year's class, Quindarius Jones, Edwin Joseph, Jabril Rawls, add to that mix, and they're all vying for reps, and we will use Edwin and we will use Jabril some at nickel because I do think it helps grow those guys. Just like, we used Renardo Green at nickel last spring. He didn't play a rep of it in the fall, but it helped him when corners were over in some other packages, or you never know when those things could show up. I think it helped his development, and obviously look what it did for J-Dub.
How do you see Earl Little fitting into the secondary going?
We're going to start him. The position he's going to work with immediately is going to be nickel. So that's what we see him playing. I think there is some multiplicity that he could add to it. But what we try to do, Chris, if you're a returner, we're going to put more on your plate from a position standpoint. Like you'll see Azareye'h at nickel, you'll see Fintrell at nickel. Earl will probably leave him at nickel for the most part. Greedy, we can kick out a little bit of corner, but Earl will pretty much leave him at one spot here in the spring and let him get comfortable there.
What is it about Earl that makes him appealing as a nickel?
I thought he was one of the best high school players I've ever seen on tape play DB. Obviously we got him from another school, but I also got his high school coach here too. So feel like I got really good insight, and I knew what my eval was out of high school when he was at Heritage, and I believe in my eval, and then hired his high school coach too, who I believe in too, and he had some fill in the space information that I needed too. So there was no hesitation on us taking Earl.
I asked Mike this earlier. How gratifying was it, or rewarding, or whatever word you want to use, to what happened at the Combine in Indianapolis with the guys you coached, as a statement to how good the 2023 Florida State football team really was?
Yeah, it was not surprising. I don't want to sound like over, but we're not preparing these guys to beat Georgia Tech. We're not preparing them to beat Florida. We're preparing them to be their very best in all ways when they're here and when they move on. And that investment is important to us. And when you see that start to show up, and then you see them coming in, and you get Jared and Jermaine sit in my office this morning, and then you have Bernardo and J-Dub coming over, and all they want to do is talk to you. That's why you coach, to see them have that type of success. Oh, hi, everybody.